when you say that Luigi Mangione shouldn't be able to unilaterally kill anybody, people on the other side, I don't know if I agree with this, they'd say that Brian Thompson, the CEO, was making the decision to kill people with his healthcare company.
I mean, I think that Brian Thompson arguably should have been tried. Like, I think that, again, going back to due process, Brian Thompson was denied his right to due process. Do I think that he was, like, somewhat responsible for the deaths of 400,000 people? Probably. Yeah. Probably, yeah.
My name is Adam, and I am a liberal.
My name is Luke, and I'm a conservative.
My name's Naima, and I'm a leftist.
My name's Chandler, and I'm MAGA.
This article says, recession fears and Elon Musk batter Trump's approval rating. Is Trump causing a recession? 3, 2, 1. I'll jump in. I don't think that we're in a recession, but I think Trump's erratic and unpredictable economic behavior is damaging the economy. You can see it in multiple indicators. The S&P 500 was down 10% this week. The Atlanta Federal Reserve said the GDP is going to contract in Q1, and you can draw a direct line between Trump's flip-flopping on tariffs and the stock market crashing, because we can all agree, businesses thrive in a predictable environment. You need to know how many resources to allocate where, at what time. And when Trump is creating such an unpredictable economic environment, yeah, it's going to hurt the stock market. Yeah, CEOs are going to come out and say, this is not good.
One thing about the stock market is a gauge at what we call micro horizon of where the economy is going to be in a short-term gain. Trump's approach to the economy is, instead of using the word recession, I use the word detox. He's trying to reset this economy of terrible 4 years that we've gone through, and his stance on tariffs goes back to that long-term game. He wants to have a medium to long-term gain for the average American. He's not focused on making our next 2 to 6 months great. He wants the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years to be great. And I think setting up tariffs like that, it is going to be a situation where it is a detox. It's probably going to get a little worse before it gets better because he has a lot that he has to reset.
When Trump announced his tariffs, the auto industry, the big three in the auto industry had been very much against Trump's tariffs, just because a lot of the suppliers of the materials that are used in the auto industry and in American manufacturing are sourced from Mexico, and there are no American suppliers of those things. So when Trump first announced his tariffs on Mexico, the Dow dropped by 1,300 points. So how do you reconcile that as not being the direct cause of what could potentially become a financial recession?
Well, I think the reason that we see this is that for decades now, we've been exporting manufacturing, exporting these various goods to other countries instead of performing these actions within our own country, so much so that companies have gotten used to the affordability of it and the ease of access of it, of saying, oh, hey, we don't have to spend all this money to do it in America when we can do it somewhere else, because we had so many states and our country as a whole where it was difficult to do business. It was expensive to do business. Now, with Trump potentially levying these tariffs, and the great thing I say is potentially is that so many of these tariffs are more so bargaining chips, and they haven't really been placed in most places yet against Canada or Mexico that have actually resulted in these tariffs being charged. For instance, we saw it with Canada. Canada actually, in various places, and not in every place, but with certain tariffs, particularly with energy between Ontario and America, they actually reduced their tariffs. And certainly there's going to be some back and forth going on, and the new Canadian Prime Minister might say, oh, hey, well, we want a 90% tariff on this. Trump's saying, okay, well, we're going to match that tariff rise. This is kind of a back and forth trade war or trade negotiation that we've seen from Trump in his first term, and I imagine we'll see it throughout the rest of this term as he works to, as Luke very aptly said, detox what has been the last 4 years of pain for our economy. And you might see a little bit of stock market shifting, but you kind of always see that. I mean,
it's not shifting, it's going down.
It's going down a lot.
That's not a shift.
Yeah, and the thing is,
but we're talking about the stock market, but we aren't talking about things that actually affect most people, like the consumer price index, inflation, more indexes of like egg prices, gas prices. These things are going back down, and the inflation is going down.
No, they're not.
They are.
Egg prices have skyrocketed since Trump took office.
When's the last time you bought eggs?
You're right.
Here's the thing.
Can I say really quickly? You're right that the stock market is just one indicator, but the idea that Trump is doing this purely to reshore manufacturing is not even backed up by Trump. Trump has played these weird tariff games where he says, I want less fentanyl at the border. And then after there's less fentanyl, he completely switches his stance. He has no coherent goal with them.
Because he achieved what he was trying to get.
At the same time, so if he achieved what he's trying to get, why did he replace the tariffs on Canada? That's entirely
okay, so he's talking about
incoherent.
something completely different there, and that's the exact point you're making. For instance, the original tariffs we were going to place on Mexico and Canada was about fentanyl and was about illegal immigration.
They clearly weren't, because Trump then
yes,
replaced
exactly.
tariffs.
Actually, they were, because right after he placed those, or was planning to place them, the Mexican president announced, oh, we're going to be placing soldiers at the border.
This is an entirely terrible talking point for a few reasons. Number one, all of the concessions that Trump got from Sheinbaum and Trudeau had already been conceded months prior. That $1.3 billion bill that Trudeau introduced had been introduced in December of 2024. You can look this up on the Canadian website. The same thing with Sheinbaum. Actually, Biden got 15,000 troops to the border in his first year. And I just want to say that if Trump is trying to reshore manufacturing, the strategy that you take is leaving a grace period. Doesn't it take 6 months to a year for American companies to build these manufacturing plants, to hire workers? If he's actually trying to reshore manufacturing, as you claim, leave a grace period. And also, you said that Trump isn't being unpredictable. It's more about consistency. Would you call Trump's tariffs thus far consistent?
I didn't say he's being, I didn't say anything related to him. I just said most businesses would thrive with consistency.
So let me rephrase. Do you think that Trump has created an environment that's consistent for businesses to thrive?
For short term, no, because he's looking at a long-term goal.
But
and
what
you
is
guys,
the
I mean,
long-term
I wanted to touch, because I'm focused more on recession, relating that back towards the
Can I ask one question really quickly?
When I'm done, yeah. So bringing it back towards the United States economy, you guys were talking about egg prices skyrocketing. Egg prices have gone down to, I think, $6.85 a dozen, which is $1.20 less than what they were a few months
Where?
ago.
Down from what, though?
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it's
actually,
the national average right now.
What was the national average at when Trump took office and over the past
But
month?
see, I'm not looking at we can blame him
so
for
the
this. I'm
national
looking
average
at where
when
we're
Trump
at
took
right
office
now.
was about $6.50. Now they're actually down to $5.50 in just about a few weeks. And the reason we saw the egg prices go up, and I don't know how far we want to get into this, was because we had the H5N1 virus that started in 2022, and the Biden administration did next to nothing about that. On top of all the various other squeezing and regulations that were hitting farmers, these chickens had no choice but to catch the virus and then get killed. 58 million chickens have died, thus causing a sort of supply and demand issue where, hey, everybody wants eggs. Oh my God, there's no chickens left to make the eggs. We have these chickens finally starting to get hatched and finally starting to be of age where they can produce eggs again. That's what's going to cause those prices to go
So
down.
if we know that there is a flu that is affecting the
There
amount
was.
that, okay. So if we know that there was a flu that is affecting the amount of eggs that chickens can produce, why would you place tariffs on a huge manufacturer of our resources in terms of food?
To reshore manufacturing, bro.
Like, that doesn't make sense. If there's already an issue in which we have less eggs, why would you put more taxes on eggs?
Because our priority is America, and our priority is the
But if your
American
priority is
people.
America and there's an issue with supply, why would you make it
Also-
harder to get that supply?
Does it not bother you guys that Trump's main promise was to lower prices on day one, and both of you guys just gave the argument that, hey, maybe in 6 to 12 months after some economic pain that Trump and Elon Musk are completely insulated from, by the way, wasn't Trump's promise to lower prices on day one?
Well, prices are
and
lower. I mean, the price of
prices
gas is
literally
at
are
the
lower.
lowest since 2021.
The Target CEO just came out and said that prices are going to have to go up. Even Tesla just wrote a letter to the Trump administration saying, dude, our cars are going to be hurt if you actually tariff Canada for no reason.
Trump just republished an op-ed called "Shut Up About Egg Prices." Like,
literally.
what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're seeing prices are going down. The price of gas is the lowest since 2021. And we're also seeing the CPI this past month was 0.2%, which was substantially lower than what it was estimated. And we even see liberal networks like CNN speaking out how the economy is getting better.
Again,
if you have a progressive channel like that, then that means things must actually be getting better.
I'm going to take the position, and you guys aren't going to like this. Biden handed the economy to Trump on a silver platter. If you look at any of these,
Yeah, shattered silver platter, maybe.
can you name me one indicator that isn't on a consistent trend from the Biden presidency? Is there one? Did the unemployment growth on January 21st randomly did the unemployment randomly drop on January 21st? Is there an indicator that's not off of the back of what Biden was already building with his plans?
Yeah, so I can give you something that Biden destroyed. We had oil production, and oil production is something that's very important within our country. It obviously is our energy independence. It's something that goes into the gas prices. On day one, Joe Biden placed numerous regulations and executive orders to halt so much oil production in our country that while we were still growing our oil production, we had a 4% average growth rate during his presidency. Meanwhile, during the Trump presidency, we saw between 11 to 13% average growth rate during those years. That is a very major indicator of, oh my gosh, there's a problem. And that's why we saw, on top of numerous other factors, the gas prices get so bad. And you know, we talk about the stock market and we talk about these tariffs. These things aren't actually here yet. They aren't actually hurting Americans yet. And the point that Luke and I
he keeps pausing them. Why does he keep pausing them?
Because
if
he's
it's
a
such a good
negotiator.
idea,
He's
but
a
if it's such a good
businessman.
idea, why would he
What's
keep
the concession he's
like-
trying to get from Canada right now? Okay, so we've talked about this. At first, it was fentanyl, but then you said he switched the concession that he's trying to get from Canada and Mexico. What is it now? What's the concession he's trying to get?
The concession he's trying to get, and it's numerous things. So, for instance, one of the tariffs that we're talking about right now is steel. Steel is Canada is one of the largest exporters of steel to our country, and something that we're really trying to work on is, as Luke mentioned, get our manufacturing back together. And you're making this whole joke about, oh my gosh, shore up manufacturing.
It takes time, man.
Yeah,
does
actually, I
take
do
time.
want to know, what is the plan
Okay.
to increase American manufacturing?
In one
a
month, every company is going to build a manufacturing plant in every city, and they're going to hire all of these.
Well, we're not making the argument that it's going to be instant. We're patient.
But what is the
Americans-
plan?
Okay,
What's
the
the
plan.
plan?
The plan
It's
is to have
concepts of a
companies- there are real concepts of a plan, and they're going to come through.
So
Here's
what
the
are they?
thing. Okay, well, if you let me say it. We have numerous companies. For instance, we have Intel and numerous other companies that are announcing they're going to be opening manufacturing plants, TSMC opening manufacturing plants in America to create chips, a whole lot better than the so-called Chips and Science Act, by the way. These are tangible things that are going to be happening. I believe it's either Toyota or Honda that announced that they're opening yet another manufacturing plant here in the United States to bring in materials from other places, but assemble them here in America. And the real point is we're trying to get even higher up on that river of production. So, for instance, the Canadian steel goes into so many things that we use on a day-to-day basis that so many Americans say, well, hey, companies, it would be better for America as a whole, manufacturing jobs that Americans can have that increase our economy, increase our GDP, things of that nature, if we had that manufacturing here in America instead of, hey, let's do it in Canada.
I just think what you said right there about chips and manufacturing, that's not what Trump's saying. If we check his Truth Social right now and we checked what he said about Canada over the past week, I can guarantee he's made 19 jokes about Canada being the 51st state and Trudeau being a governor. He has, and you're proud of that.
I wouldn't say I'm proud of it, but I don't have to take it so serious.
What's his end goal? You don't think he should take that seriously?
You don't think you should take the
the
words of
U.S.
President
president
seriously?
showing the same imperial ambitions that Vladimir Putin is showing?
I'm
over in
saying
Europe
I
right now?
don't take him saying, oh, the 51st governor of Canada seriously, just like I didn't take people saying Joe Biden is, I'm not even going to go there. So many things people said about Joe Biden that I said, okay, listen, I'm not going to take that
But that's not what
seriously.
Joe Biden is saying. I'm saying he's saying the president of the United States of America is absolutely saying that. Why should we not take what the president says at face value? Also, it's fair to support a president without supporting every single thing they do. You do not have to blindly just accept that this is okay and continue to wait and wait and wait for it to work out. This is a bad idea. It's not working.
I mean, if things actually were bad, and I can man up and I could admit that, but again, we're 2 months in. I'm not going to be that guy that stands by Trump with everything because I disagree with things that Trump has done. But at the end of the day, I can't make such a big decision off of 2 months into a
He set a
presidency.
goal for the American economy, and instead of meeting it, he has done the opposite.
Yes, but just how you've said that we can't look at, oh, well, in 6 months it will be better. Well, you guys are doing the same thing, saying, well, it's getting bad. In a couple months it's going to be bad. We don't know whether it's going to be good or bad. You guys can assume based off of what you believe, and we assume based off of what we believe. And so until it actually happens, we just won't know.
Who is Mahmoud Khalil, the anti-Israel Columbia University activist ICE arrested? Should Mahmoud Khalil be considered a terrorist? 3, 2, 1. Whoa, we all agree.
It's beautiful.
The ones who
I will go. So I don't think he should be deemed a terrorist. That is because a terrorist is somebody who has enacted a state of violence with an intention of coercion or intimidation onto another government. Where we might have a little bit of disagreement is he is right now he was arrested, he's being investigated, and he's up for potential deportation. I believe he was from Syria.
Yes.
I do agree with that. The reason is the president has the ability to deport an immigrant, that is, whether it's on a green card or a visa, whatever it might be, if they pose as a threat to the country. The reason why I believe he poses as a threat is because he's come out with not just pro-Palestine, that's another thing, but he's come out with pro-Hamas rhetoric, And Hamas in itself is a terrorist organization. He's outwardly supported that. He has put together groups to outwardly support that. And in the state of where we're at, in the state of the world, in the state of the country, I think that is the wise decision. Because you can play the devil's advocate of, well, he hasn't done something, but if he's outwardly shown evidence and outwardly expressed potential future of doing something, I think that is the wise decision.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
If we're going to deport people who are threats to our country and spread anti-Semitic propaganda, can we start with Elon Musk?
I was about to say that.
That dude
he
Sieg Heiled.
literally just
He
Sieg
Sieg Heiled
Heiled
twice, but also
Okay, we can't talk about this because there's
too
so
much.
many liberal politicians that have done the same.
Sieg
not the
Heiled?
same thing. No,
No.
Kamala like
He
waving
didn't
to
Sieg
a
Heil.
crowd.
Okay,
He
listen,
did.
this
Yes,
is,
he did.
and it's so funny. I'm gonna use something against y'all. If y'all are gonna say he's Sieg Heiling, then you're both ableists. Elon Musk has Asperger's
What?
syndrome. He doesn't really, he's not always cognizant of how things are looking or what that looks like from the external perspective.
Can I ask another real question though? Does it ever worry you guys that Trump labeled Mahmoud a threat to national security, correct?
Yeah.
And they're using that justification. What if the next administration has a completely different definition of what a threat to national security is, and they think that, I don't know, like a January 6er is a threat to national security?
here's the
Well, I
thing.
think
They did.
supporting an outward terrorist organization kind of is worthy of being deemed that.
But I'm saying, I think that is a threat to national security, but if the president is the one deciding who is a threat to national security, unilaterally, it's kind of scary, right?
Well, I
Isn't
don't
that a
think-
slippery
Well, I don't think
slope?
the
I think
president's
it
the one
is.
deciding.
But he is the one deciding. I mean, he's actively been deciding.
Donald
has-
Trump was the one who, yeah.
Well, he has the ability to, I guess, push for the investigation, but he's not the one that's actually making the decision.
So who is
there
he?
was not a
who
there was not a
decided-
single change in policy.
So can
by
I
Trump.
ask
Go
who
ahead.
decided that Mahmoud Khalil should be detained? Like whose decision?
And was he
that?
charged? Wasn't he not charged with anything yet?
Like Mahmoud Khalil
I
has
think it's
not
still, it's still
actively.
being investigated.
Isn't that
He's
weird
never
that-
committed a crime.
Here's the thing, and this is gonna kind of breach into different territory, Patriot Act type stuff. He doesn't have to commit a crime to be deported, particularly if his, allegation is for supporting a terrorist organization, which is at this point irrefutable. Even if he's not exactly a terrorist, even if he's not blowing things up or anything like that, if he's a member of an organization at Columbia University, which itself on October 8th said, we are in full support of what is happening with Hamas. We support violent resistance or something like that.
So to Adam's point, if a government, the executive branch, if a presidential power has the authority to decide what group is a terrorist, and then has the authority to decide how much a person's affiliation with any group deems them a terrorist, if there is an organization that, like if there's a president after Trump who deems that a group that you are in support of is a terrorist organization, like how are we deciding who is a terrorist organization, who is in favor of these terrorist organizations, and what level threat they are?
Well,
Because to me, it seems like a violation of his First Amendment right to speak on behalf of
You're making a weird face,
Palestinian
but didn't he
people.
just, didn't he say stuff? You just
Well,
admitted
so here's
himself.
the thing.
Your First Amendment right gets revoked the second that you incite violence onto another individual.
Did
But
he
he
incite
didn't incite
violence?
violence. That's
Wait,
the
did we have
issue.
any proof of what
he supported the violence that has been done by Hamas.
I think it is dangerous to begin labeling and deporting people on the grounds that they are a terrorist without due process. Because if any president can do that, then maybe the next president does that to people that you actively agree with. And maybe the next president isn't, I don't
Well, did
personally
he
think
label
this
him?
is-
Did he label him a terrorist? I thought they.
That's
just,
why he's being
I think the
detained and
Trump
deported.
admin is labeling him, but
Yes.
also I'm pretty sure he hasn't been charged. I could be wrong, but
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
he's-
there's
yeah,
no
he's-
charge.
he's-
Isn't that odd? Isn't that
No,
what-
he's never been
is-
charged with a
this
crime.
is
Scary.
more- well,
Yeah.
he's not an actual citizen for one, and for
Still
two,
probably got
He
charged.
does have a
there's-
green card though.
He does have a green card,
Yeah.
which they have the power to revoke. This is more of a question of how much do we want to allow the government to have power? Because I think what we might actually surprisingly all agree upon is that the government probably needs to have a little bit less power in this regard, in regards to citizens. Like, I am not really in support of the government being able to say, oh, well, you're a terrorist, you're a terrorist, you're a terrorist, if you are a naturalized citizen. Mahmoud Khalil was born in Syria. He came to America on a student visa and then acquired a green card, which is, hey, a great thing. But and I'm not saying he's a terrorist, but unfortunately the government has so much power that in the eyes of the government, supporting a group that itself issued a statement in support of a terrorist group, by extension, makes you not necessarily a terrorist, but able
But
to
I-
be deported for terrorism.
I don't think that green card holders should have less constitutional rights than
natural-born citizens.
Well, that's a fundamental disagreement.
Yeah,
The First Amendment should apply to anybody.
I think that, yeah, exactly.
It
I think
does,
that
and
everyone
it
who
does.
is here legally should be protected by the First Amendment, and that includes him.
Can you guys see where I'm coming from when I say this does worry me from the perspective of free speech in the First Amendment? Conservatives should know or should love free speech more than anybody, apparently. It creates this chilling effect almost where people are scared to voice their opinion, and you probably shouldn't be voicing pro-Hamas opinions. But now what if there's like a pro-Palestinian protester who's a little bit worried? It creates this chilling effect, and it's almost like a slippery slope. Not to use the slippery slope fallacy, but it does sometimes scare me when the government is, without even charging people, detaining them because he didn't charge them.
No, and I know, but
Detaining.
And this case is setting a precedent on what that means going forward. Like right now it's Mahmoud Khalil, but who will it be next time?
And can I just say,
well, it already happened to January 6 prisoners. They did get charged, but so many of them were sitting without trial that we had to issue a blanket pardon because some of them hadn't
that
seen
is
the light
not
of
why
day.
there was a blanket pardon. They were not sitting there without a trial. They had due process just like everybody else. Can you guys name one J6er who didn't get due process?
Not off the top of my
Sorry
head
to put you on the spot like
necessarily.
that, but like, come on, if you're saying that these people aren't getting due process, there should be somebody who you have like a prime example, like a strong
There
example.
were individuals from J6 that were just released like a month ago because they've been in prison this entire time.
Is your source Truth Social? Because
Okay, well,
don't
I
think-
can mention somebody.
One of my sources is someone that was actually there. Kind of how you guys are going along the lines of like people being afraid to speak out. I mean, that's how Republicans have felt for the last 4 years
Give me a
because we
break.
would speak out. You guys would be. Biden was on stage that was essentially comparing us to Nazis.
No, he
if
was
we support.
not.
Yes, he was.
What
if
was
we
the line?
supported, but he was
Guys, we're doing
comparing
so
us.
good.
Well, I'm saying there's video evidence of it. He was comparing MAGA believers to Nazis,
So to
and
my
I think
point-
that made us afraid. But I think that's why we have those definitions in line
So to my
is to
point,
be able to have those checks.
Like if now if the next president is a Democrat and they label organizations that are speaking out in favor of the far right as terrorist, and any green card holder who speaks out in support of your causes is now a terrorist and can be detained and deported without due process, that would hurt your cause. So right now it's pro-Palestinian protests and it's pro-Hamas, but next time it can be anyone, and that's the fear.
And we all have the same color, so I know that we're at each other's necks a bit, but we all agree that definitionally he's not a terrorist. We all agree that the government should probably be a little bit more careful with who they choose to target and deport. I mean, hey, if there are conservatives being unfairly targeted by the government, I'm not okay with that. We've sat here and talked for a while now. You know that I'm genuinely not okay with the government censoring conservatives or all of these, whatever you guys think the Biden administration was doing. And yeah, so I mean, we can all agree that the government should probably be more careful when they're targeting people who are just protesting.
Luigi Mangione's journal, not manifesto, about healthcare industry grievances. Attorney argues. Was Luigi Mangione justified? 3, 2, 1.
Ooh.
Okay, so before you all attack the hell out of me, I want to say Luigi Mangione hasn't been tried yet. The trial is not completed, and he is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So I think that going into this debate, like, it shouldn't be about whether or not he killed the CEO of United Healthcare, because we cannot claim that yet. And I've had a lot of discussions about Luigi Mangione under the presumption that he's done it and that he is the person who did it. And I'm not going to
But he
give my
definitely
opinion.
did do it. He definitely did do it. Well, here's the thing. There's two separate things we can argue about. The legality of the trial, which we should probably stay away from, or the morality of what...
I don't want to
justified.
argue about the morality of killing the CEO of healthcare, because I think it is immoral to kill anyone, regardless
then
of
we
your
shouldn't argue
grievances.
about this at all.
What I think he is justified in is his grievances with the
Yeah,
United
yeah.
States healthcare system.
Can we all agree with this fundamental fact? Like he's justified in his grievances, as you said, about the healthcare system, not justified in the killing.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Luke, what do you...
extent,
I see
yeah.
you sitting there. Healthcare is perfect.
Because therefore that was the reason that he killed him. And I don't think any reason to kill anybody is ever justified.
Well, that's
I
what we're
think
saying. We're saying that
he's
the killing
separating
is
from
not justified. But if you separate the act from the reason for the act, I think that it is justified to have grievances with the U.S.
I think it's hard for
health
me to
system.
separate that.
Well, here's the
That's
thing.
fair.
Here's the question.
That's fair.
Do you think the healthcare industry in America is kind of fucked?
That's basically what mine is.
I mean, yeah, I think healthcare
Okay.
and insurance.
So he was
and-
justified to be worried, but then everything he did after that. I guess the argument that I'd make for why you can't just kill people in the streets, which we all seem to agree on this, is that it weakens the cohesion of a society, number one. But number two, I think one of the beautiful things about America is that there are many avenues for our voice to be heard. So even if you don't vote, You can go out there and protest. You can call your representative. You can post online. There are 100 different ways for your voice to be heard, and none of those should include just murdering someone in the middle of the street. That's probably not an avenue that we should take in America. If you're living in like an authoritarian country and that's the last resort, that's a different conversation. But we live in America, and this dude seems pretty smart, right? Like Luigi Mangione could have just gotten a degree in medicine and just like helped people, actually helped people. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think with all this, the thing that's like frankly disgusted me the most is how many, I'm not targeting them, but it's just I've seen it the most, is a lot of these liberal women are almost making him a hero, talking about how he was handsome, and it's almost like this like weird fetish.
They did that with Ted Bundy too.
No,
It's not-
yeah, and I think
it's just a societal thing.
It's
like-
but it's, I mean, like, do we live in a society where it's like that stuff is celebrated? And I think that's what, out of this whole thing, really like, it really disgusted me.
Did you notice the online reaction to Luigi Mangione? A lot of people in the comment section of videos were like, not supportive, but they understood where he was coming from healthcare-wise.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people hide behind their screens and
For
say things
sure.
they wouldn't
But
say in
can you
person.
I mean,
understand?
well, now we're here in person, and I
Yeah,
will say, as
yeah.
one of these liberal women, I do not support the killing of anyone.
Right.
I mean, he hasn't been tried yet, and I
Yeah.
don't want to make a claim to his guilt or innocence. With that being said, I do think that it's fair to have grievances with the United States healthcare system. It's objectively broken. I think that I know I've personally experienced issues with the healthcare system not providing for me in times when I really needed it. I'm sure many of you have and witnessed that within your families. And I think that the reasons that he was upset are very much valid. But what he did with that upset, with his anger, was not.
An interesting argument that I've heard is when you say that Luigi Mangione shouldn't be able to unilaterally kill anybody, people on the other side, I don't know if I agree with this, they'd say that Brian Thompson, the CEO, was making the decision to kill people with his healthcare company. I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that, but if I want to provide the alternate argument of what people would say. What do you think about that, Chandler?
I think it's a very great. It's a very great. It's great that you mention it. I actually kind of want to ping this to Naima. Do you agree with that argument?
That Brian Thompson, I think that Brian Thompson arguably should have been tried. Like, I think that, again, going back to due process, Brian Thompson was denied his right to due process. Do I think that he was, like, somewhat responsible for the deaths of 400,000 people? Probably,
yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, great.
But at the same time, he shouldn't have just been shot dead in the street
Right.
because
Probably
of
not
that.
a cool
He should have
thing
been
to do.
tried and gone to jail.
With that information in mind, even though you're green, I think we probably might be able to come to a middle ground again of saying Luigi Mangione is justified in his grievance, not justified in the alleged murder.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
Boom, we're done.
Alleged murder.
Handled.
Sure.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this.
you're doing.
I'm not
You're in
dictating.
no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're
will-
going to feel very
you will
good.
feel influenced.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the
bad position,
beginning
and he
of the
happens
war.
to be right about
From the
it.
very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Brown,
position.
I
You
was
don't have the
headed-
cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you
I'm
don't.
very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think
You're
you-
gambling with World War III.
Okay, the question is Trump favoring Putin? 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Trump is very clearly taking Putin's position on this war. He's very clearly playing hardball with Ukraine, and he's gotten nothing from Russia thus far. I think, just to zoom out for a second, Trump has a unique form of narcissism where he's attracted to powerful people. If you guys think he's not narcissistic, you guys are way behind us right now.
I think every politician's narcissistic.
Trump has a unique
I think he's exceptional.
Trump has a unique form of narcissism where he's attracted to powerful people. You can see this when he talks about his love letters with Xi Jinping or Kim Jong-un, or when he talks about Vladimir Putin. He comes up with nicknames for Trudeau, but what's his nickname for Putin? He has no nickname for Putin. This proves my point. This dude plays soft
Nicknames?
with Putin. Yeah, Trump's
that's what it's about. I mean, you could say the same thing about Kim Jong-un. He calls him Rocket Man.
We're
Kim
talking about
Jong-un's
Putin right now. We're
relatively
talking about
powerful.
Putin right now.
Okay, the one person he doesn't have a nickname for, same with Xi Jinping.
Because
but
he has
nothing about Rocket Man.
Because he's attracted to power. Vladimir Putin is a source of narcissistic supply for Trump, and Zelensky has that lack of supply. So he feels like he can demean him. He feels like he can deride him in the Oval Office because he views Zelensky as weaker than Putin. This is how how Trump operates. I would love to think that Putin has some sort of dirt on Trump, but that's not what it is. Trump has a narcissistic brain, and he's attracted to Putin. But if I can just say one more thing.
Let's go.
I think that Donald Trump is only legitimizing Putin's imperial ambitions when he tries to give a peace deal or sign a peace deal with no security guarantees. This whole debate should center around security guarantees, in my opinion. But
I mean, I think I don't like the word favor because it's like there's a positive connotation. I think what Trump's doing in his relationship with Putin is exactly what I would be doing as a businessman. I think as what he's doing as a businessman. When you're making deals with business, it doesn't matter if you like someone or dislike them, you get along, you don't get along. The number one thing is to maintain a cordial relationship.
he didn't do that with Zelensky in the Oval Office.
Well, because here's the thing. If anything happens and things go south and we're at the brink of World War III, America is going to be a lot more afraid of Russia than they're going to be afraid of Ukraine.
You guys realize that if
Considering Russia is one of the powerhouses of the world, maintaining a cordial relationship with them is a lot more crucial than maintaining a relationship
This
with
is just-
Ukraine.
this-
I don't
Ukraine
think
has
that's
just
This is
taken
just BS.
Ukraine has
This is
taken
just BS.
advantage of the United States, of our hundreds of billions of dollars, and they've done nothing with it. Zelensky's went and got all his flashy things, and he's been living a good life.
Can I
But-
jump
But
in
how
real
are they
quick?
taking advantage? They're actively at war. They were attacked by Russia. That's not
But
taking
why is not
advantage of
all
US
that
aid.
money is being used
Well, can
into
I say
military and aid?
We're not sending money over there. 80% of what we sent are military. It's military equipment, old stockpiled equipment that we now
Not all
don't
of
have
it
to
is
dock out.
old.
I'm
Some
80.
of it is actually
about
new
80% of it.
experimental tech.
But here's the thing: it's
ahead.
stockpiled military equipment that we would have had to dispose of anyways, and it's very expensive to dispose of. It's toxic. This military equipment. So rather than disposing of it, we send it over to our allies, and our allies have been using it to protect their border against Russia. And I just want to say, we can all agree, if World War III does start, the onus would fall on Russia because they're the one that started this invasion, and likely Putin has more imperial ambitions. Can we just say that if World War III were to start, the onus would not fall on Ukraine?
I mean, I don't think there's any you can make that claim.
You can,
in
very
such-
clearly.
I
in
mean,
such
if Russia
certainty.
openly
Absolutely.
attacks the Ukrainian border and begins a war that turns into World War III, it started with Russia's attack on Ukraine.
Okay, but I mean, I think in that instance, it's going to be important that we maintain a cordial relationship
I
with
disagree with
Russia.
this as well.
Well, now you're at war. You don't have to maintain a cordial
Right,
relationship.
the idea
Yeah,
that
but it's better
Or-
to be at war having cordial relationship with Russia versus Russia being our enemy in
But
a
Russia is our
hopeful
enemy.
war that
If-
doesn't happen.
But if a country were to start World War III, I would hope that they would be the enemy of the United States.
And can I just
for
say,
starting a world war?
Well, I
Right?
don't think Russia's our friend, but you need to have cordial relationships just as we have with that we're hoping to have with China and these other powerhouses.
So
in
it's
the
funny that
world.
you say that we need to have cordial relationships with Russia,
But not
when it
Zelensky.
came to Canada, we don't need to have cordial relationships and it's okay to make jokes. When it comes to Ukraine, it's okay to make jokes and we don't have to have cordial relationships and it's okay to fight. So I mean, that kind of goes into the point of him favoring him because the only one who he is willing to have a cordial relationship with is Russia. But in all of these other instances, he's openly dismissive. He's openly offensive, he's openly insulting, and I think that that does show a sense of favorship.
All right, let's jump in on Trump and the Russia connection because as cordial as it's kind of like an inverse thing. Like the more cordial Trump is with a country, the sterner he is with that country.
Really?
Yes. Vladimir Putin during the election cycle said he would have endorsed and voted for Biden if he
He's-
could have.
he's playing games, dude. It's
Okay,
Putin.
let me
It's
say this.
Putin.
Yes, it's Putin. But then at that same time he said, okay, well Kamala's here, she laughs funny, Biden endorsed her, I like her. At that same forum where he was speaking about this, when asked, how does this really affect you? Putin said, well, honestly, Trump was the worst for Russia. There was more sanctions and everything than we had ever seen. And Biden was way easier on Russia. At the same time that Biden was canceling the Keystone XL pipeline between America and Canada, he lifted the sanctions that Trump had placed on Russia, forbidding them from building the Nord Stream 2 pipeline between Russia and Germany. That was just a few months before Russia announced their invasion of Ukraine. I'm not trying to blame this at all on Biden. Obviously, what Russia is doing is wrong, and they are being very aggressive, and they are in the wrong on this. We all agree on that.
Yes.
But what I can also say is that Russia was capitalizing on what they viewed as a weak presidency
Nope.
to push forward into Ukraine.
Nope.
Just like they had with the Obama administration in Crimea.
So going
And
into
on
that,
top
if
of that,
Russia's capitalizing on what they view as a weak presidency, why would the response to that be to
exclusively be cordial with Putin and no one else?
Because, and like we've said many times, and like I just mentioned, is that when it comes to a fellow superpower, you have to tread lightly.
Other than
It
Canada.
well, Canada's not really.
Or China.
Or China.
Canada's
Really a
not,
superpower.
Canada's
Or
not an
China's a
adversary.
superpower.
Canada is not a
I know,
superpower.
but I'm saying China.
So
So-
can I just debunk the idea that Biden was way stronger on, or sorry, can I debunk the idea that Biden was less strong on Russia? Russia was frozen out of the global order for the past 3 years. Nobody would talk or meet with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin was literally like pushed out. They were shutting him.
Yes.
Trump has already brought him back into the fold. And what has he gotten? Trump has gotten tricked by Putin. Trump stopped sharing intelligence, U.S. intelligence with Ukraine. You remember that happening a few days ago, right?
Keep going.
Right when Trump stopped sharing U.S. intelligence with Ukraine. So yes, that happened, right?
Keep going.
Just say yes, that happened.
No, but just keep going. I'm trying to hear you out here because I have something I want to
Putin
say.
took
but-
advantage of that opportunity to push forward. He literally made Trump look like an idiot. Trump stopped intelligence sharing. Putin took advantage of that. Off the back of that, he killed hundreds of Ukrainians. So the idea that Putin is negotiating in good faith is dumb. The idea that we should have a cordial relationship with Putin, who his entire existence is antithetical to the West, to our ideals. Putin's to his very core. Like if you did surgery and looked into this guy's heart, he's just anti-Western.
Look at the way Zelensky came into the Oval Office. One, this is something that I kind of take to heart. He comes in and he's not even wearing a suit. He's not coming in showing respect to these individuals. He's making jokes with the
Elon Musk is
conversation
So-
with
Yeah,
Trump.
Zelensky is an
And-
elected
And so
official.
it's like this guy, not just an actor politically, he literally is an actor. His background is an actor.
Number one, so
he's
is Trump,
putting on
but-
a show throughout
So
the
is
whole
Ronald
thing.
Reagan's, by the way.
So is
but-
Trump as like a reality show guy, but does it equally bother you when Elon Musk leads a cabinet meeting with a baseball cap on and like a meme t-shirt that says like, I am become meme, whatever the hell it said? Does that bother you equally? He's leading a cabinet meeting?
Elon Musk is not the
Oh, so-
governor or what? Sorry, a president of a nation.
But you just said that it's disrespectful when someone doesn't wear a suit in the Oval Office, and every single
not
day,
in the Oval Office
Elon Musk doesn't
specifically.
wear a
I'm
And
suit.
just
by the
saying
way,
when you're meeting with
Zelensky
these
is-
individuals
So
about
when you're
such
meeting
a,
with Trump, you should wear a suit.
And-
Unless you're Elon Musk.
Unless
I
you're
think
Elon
when
Musk.
you're the president of a country and you're meeting involving something as serious as this, and to be honest, Elon Musk is a character. It doesn't excuse it, but Elon Musk is.
Was
You just
Elon
said
Musk-
Zelensky's a character. Well, do you know why Zelensky doesn't wear a suit? It's because his country is in war and he wants to show solidarity with the people on the front lines. You want him to, you know what was so funny? If Zelensky walked in there with a suit on, I guarantee Luke would be saying, look at Zelensky's spending all of our money on these lavish suits. Look at this.
No, I would.
No
I
matter what
actually
would
probably-
happen.
I wouldn't look up to
But
him,
can
but
you-
I'd have a little bit more.
I
Can you
would
unders-
admire that because last time he showed up without a suit on, Trump said, hey, come back next time with a suit. It would have shown good faith. It would have shown that Zelensky is actually
You don't
trying
think
to push
Zelensky's in
this
good
war.
faith? Zelensky's the one who agreed to the peace deal this week, and who didn't?
I think Zelensky's
Putin.
a joke.
So this is all just incredibly backwards, and I think you guys are very sucked up in right-wing propaganda. Can I ask you, do you understand why Zelensky cannot sign a peace deal without security guarantees?
What I understand is that we have given billions upon billions of dollars in the form of weapons and
You got to be a
research
politician,
and-
bro. You're
Yeah.
weaving around my
Okay,
question.
Yeah, can
no,
you just answer his question?
Yeah, can you
Okay.
answer my question? You just give me
well,
a
'cause
direct answer. Do you understand why security
You've given
guarantees
zero
are
direct
important?
answers for most
Ask
of
me
the
whatever,
points
man.
we've brought up.
Ask me
Why
whatever.
is it
You
that
can answer it.
America?
I don't
Why
know.
is it
You
that
can
America
tell
is is almost unilaterally in support of Ukraine?
We are not.
when
The
all-
EU,
when-
the European
when-
Union has put in more than us.
Yeah, maybe if you combine it all, maybe possibly, but like this has been almost entirely us. And we're
Other than the
we're-
fact that
we're-
if you
we're-
combine
and
it
we're
all,
try-
that
and
you
we're
just said
trying
that.
we're trying to spread this around. We're trying to make it so that this isn't just going to continue going on forever. Because if we want it to go on forever, that's just going to kill millions upon millions of people. And the one thing that we want to happen is for less people to die. We want this war to end. And you guys were saying, oh, well, Trump said he would end the war on day one. It's not as simple as that. And I think it wasn't a good thing for Trump to campaign on these things ending on day one. But what I think is, yeah.
There you
But
go.
yes, I'm going to be honest with you here. Russia is in such a position that unless you want to start World War III right now, they're going to get something.
You likely have to give Russia some land, yes,
Yeah.
but you also have to give Ukraine some security guarantees at the same time. And I keep
and
saying that.
I don't disagree with you.
But,
and I
but
think it
Trump
would be great.
Trump refuses to give explicit security guarantees. All he did was this mineral deal where he gets half of Ukraine's minerals, and there are no actual explicit guarantees. That's basically just conning Ukraine. Like, hey, I know that you're in the middle of a war. I know that your country is being destroyed, but we want half of your resources, and in return, you get nothing.
Okay, I think that the general thing that we can all agree on is that war is bad. We do not want to see Putin invade Ukraine anymore. We do not want to see the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, and we hope that Putin will agree to a ceasefire deal and honor that agreement.
I agree. You agree?
Sounds good.
Yes.
We're all on the same page.
Okay.
Is Elon Musk's DOGE a benefit to America? 3, 2, 1. So from our red people here, I kind of want to get an understanding of what you guys consider a benefit to America, because I know what DOGE has done, and I'm trying to understand what you guys think has been harmful. So for instance, Trump said during the joint session of Congress, $8 million to cut transgender mice, and people said, oh, it's transgenic. It was actually $8 million for transgender mice. Numerous other things, for instance, the Social Security going to somebody that was the age of 320 years old, that was real. We did eliminate that, and we're tracing to where that money has gone. How is this not a benefit when we see that if you add all these things up, it is billions upon billions of dollars worth of savings?
First of all, they have not illustrated that it was billions and billions. We can talk about that more, but I think that Elon Musk is unreliable and he's reckless in what he's doing. So I want more government efficiency. We can all agree, step one, we all want the government to be more efficient. No one wants there to be waste, fraud, and abuse. So we can all start with that axiom, right? But the way that Elon Musk is doing it is not only reckless, but it's illegal. Article 1 of the Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse. So when Elon Musk is using the executive branch to cut things and shutter entire agencies like USAID, you are subverting Congress. You are subverting their power of the purse. That's why people, have you guys seen those town halls of people yelling at their representatives?
I do also want to say you gave a lot of examples that were on cutting aid and subsidiaries to non-American. Like USAID is not working on actively this country, but DOGE has also fired a significant number of VA workers. DOGE has also fired a significant number of FAA workers. DOGE has fired a significant number of national parks workers. DOGE has fired a significant number of IRS workers. I mean, DOGE is not just cutting USAID, but what DOGE has not done is taken away money that was going towards subsidiaries for Tesla, which I think is kind of interesting and very much a conflict of interest on Elon Musk's part. Also, to the point about the transgender mice, can we just clear this up? Transgenic.
Yes, sir.
Not
Transgenic,
the same
but
thing.
they actually
But,
were
I mean,
for transgender mice.
No, it's not transgender. It's
yes,
transgenic.
I know,
Which is
but
not
even if
the
we
same
back
there
up,
were two
though-
separate studies. There was one for transgender mice.
Even if we back up, what else are you going to do studies on? You do studies on mice. This is what you do. I mean, you do them on animals. You guys are acting like transgender mice is absurd in and of itself, but you can say like, oh, $4 million for Adderall mice. Yeah, they were doing Adderall studies on animals, but
if it was that, maybe it would have been more acceptable.
But that is what it
You
is.
need
Because
research.
the definition, hold on, pause.
Okay.
The definition of transgenic is not the same as transgender.
Oh, I
They are
know.
not
They're two
transitioning.
separate studies.
Can I
There
finish
was one for transgender
talking?
mice.
Can I finish talking?
If you want to.
Thanks. They are not the same thing. Transgenic does not mean transgender. What transgenic is doing is putting DNA of humans into mice so that we can study the effects of different medicines on mice and how they would act on the human body. That is a necessity because I would like to take medicine that is affecting me in the way that the medicine is supposed to. And we need to have studies that do that. So going away from the transgenic mice, I do want to address DOGE fired the workers who protect our military codes, specifically the nuclear launch codes, and then
guys hear
had to rehire all of them because no one else knows how to do that. That is inefficient. To fire workers without actually understanding what they do, only to realize that we actually need them, is inefficient.
Can I build
I
on
think-
top of that?
Okay,
Please do.
if you guys want to just keep
Did you guys
going.
hear
Yes.
about the nuclear stockpile story? Because you listed all of your stories. Did you hear about the nuclear stockpile story in
I'm
particular?
not familiar with it. Why don't
Okay,
you
so
surprise me?
DOGE and Elon Musk fired a bunch of nuclear stockpile workers, as
Yes.
Naima said, and then they realized 24 hours later, and you can look this up, these were uniquely qualified, highly specialized people who were maintaining and taking care of our nuclear stockpiles. So the Friday, they fired them on Thursday, they reached back out on Friday, but the nuclear stockpile people were locked out of their federal emails, so there was a bunch of downtime where our stockpiles couldn't be maintained. Two questions, is that efficient? And is that helping America?
No.
Okay, she's answering.
I just want to talk because you mentioned about it being illegal. So it actually is not illegal what he's doing. This was brought into law by Obama's administration. It's what we call is a special agency employee, special government employee. And so presidents have the right to appoint individuals to advise them throughout their administration.
Mm-hmm.
They get a 130-day period to basically run out their tasks. The only point of which what Elon is doing would be illegal is if he extends that 130 days. And so President Biden had the same what they call unelected bureaucrats. I forgot her name. Anita Dunn was like his right-hand woman.
His advisor, yeah.
She was doing exactly what Trump is doing in the advising sense.
Well, can I just clarify? My contention wasn't with the fact that Elon Musk is an advisor for 130 days. It's that he's going around Article 1, which says that Congress can appropriate and allocate funds as Congress deems necessary. Congress has the ability to allocate funds with the power of the purse. Elon Musk unilaterally using the executive branch to shutter agencies like USAID or
But
other
he's
agencies.
not the one making the cuts.
He is. Him and his DOGE squad.
He's advising.
Oh, so it went through Congress.
He's advising.
Oh, so if it didn't go through Congress, then
He's
it's illegal.
advising to the elected officials that are allowed to be making these
So
cuts.
who fired?
The USAID workers.
Okay.
Yes, who fired them? Who was it? If
It wasn't Congress.
He advised for the fire.
So it was the
who
executive
did it?
He didn't
branch.
do the actual fire.
So he advised his like 18-year-old DOGE dudes, or who did the firing? Because it was the
Whoever the
executive
elected
branch.
official is that's ahead of it.
Yeah,
Him.
who
So
happens
if,
to be President
If he
Donald
was the
Trump.
one coming in and doing the cuts, that would constitute a need for an elected official. He's simply advising these individuals to do that.
Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, so for the nuclear thing,
Yeah.
that is bad, and it's
bad.
great, and I'm going to agree with you right there. And I think it's
appreciate
great
it.
that you mention it, and I think it's great that we can acknowledge that. Oh my gosh, if we cut things that don't need to be cut, we need to figure out and make sure those things are not cut. Here's the problem: the government is so massive and so wasteful and so inefficient that it is almost impossible to tell the fat from the muscle here. We can't tell what's actually important and what's actually pushing our nation forward and worthy of tax dollars versus what is, something that's condoms for Africa, if that makes sense. But the bigger point here, and your point about Article 1 is completely moot, because here's the thing. Article 1 is important because, yes, Congress is the purse of the country, but they give money to the executive branch for the executive branch to operate. Who was the leader of the executive branch? The President of the United States. President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden created the Campaign to Cut Waste in 2011 or so, and they did exactly that, but only barely. I think they cut something like $50 billion and then it fizzled out. Department of Government Efficiency is estimated to have already cut somewhere in the billions past
true.
that.
I just don't think that's true.
Okay,
Oh,
we don't
don't
have
pull
the
numbers
we
out
don't
of
have
nowhere.
the numbers yet because of how massive the entire system is. It's like doing surgery, and it's a surgery on like a giant. So you cut one artery, it might be bad.
But
you
he's
can
not
fuse it back
doing
together.
surgery. He's like lit the whole thing on fire.
And
I don't
if
think
he
so,
lit the
no.
entire thing on fire, there'd be anarchy. There'd be no more anything.
What the Elon-
and that's not what's happening.
I will say to
and
you, as a Trump supporter, if I were you, I really would not be a fan of what Elon Musk is doing because it's undermining your president.
I think overall, the Department of Government Efficiency is going to have some growing pains as it starts to become a real thing. And it's the whole point of it is that it's going to be temporary. We're not trying to destroy the entire federal government. We're not trying to dismantle everything. Obviously, there are going to be mistakes. There are going to be things where it's like, okay, maybe we should keep that. The measles thing, the nuclear stockpile thing, the Ebola research thing. Even he acknowledged how absurd it was
Probably
that
not
was
good.
cut.
Probably not
not good. And the whole point, and the reason I
The
make
veterans thing.
the reason I make the analogy. About the surgery on a giant is because of how bloated our entire government is, that if you cut one thing, it might cut 3 extra things. You don't know that you meant to cut. You reattach those things, they keep going. One day of these people technically not being employed is not a big deal because people can go on vacation sometimes. Like, people aren't working every single day. If you miss one day, that doesn't mean that suddenly measles is back, Ebola is back, our nukes are exploding. It means that we're working to make this country a little bit more efficient, one step at a time. There might be some missteps, there might be some miscommunications, but in the end, if it saves even one taxpayer, let's say 10 cents on their taxes as it adds up, then I say it's worth it.
Yeah, I still disagree with your entire thesis. I think surgery, something that is necessary with surgery, is precision. You have surgical precision when you do things, and that's not what Elon Musk is doing. So there is a trade-off. So if you're saying that we're saving Americans 10 cents, what's the trade-off?
It's just a number.
Is it 10 cents at the expense of our veterans hotline? Because I don't know if I'd be willing to make that trade-off.
Here we go. Kanye West says he's a Nazi. Kanye West says he loves Hitler. Now what, bitch? Kanye West says Hitler was so fresh. That's crazy.
All right, so the question is, should Kanye West be banned from X? 3, 2, 1.
I'm the odd one out.
Wow.
It's okay.
I can jump in first.
I do agree with you, but it's okay.
I don't even have a strong opinion on whether he should be banned. I think ultimately it's the decision of the people who own X if they want advertisers on their app or if they want Kanye West glazing Hitler on their app. It's definitely the decision of the people who own X, so Elon Musk. Broadly speaking, the reason I agreed is because there should be slightly stricter, maybe a lot more strict content moderation on Twitter. Twitter, like 4 years ago, was actually not that bad, but it seems like Elon completely removed all of the guardrails of content moderation, and now it literally feels like Nazi Germany when I'm scrolling through Twitter. I don't even follow these right-wing accounts, and right-wing accounts are at the top of my feed, so.
Yeah. I mean, just as a business model, like, I used to use Twitter and I don't now because it's like not fun. Like, it's just hateful and mean.
And so it's kind of like, you know, if you want people, like what kind of platform are you trying to create? But at the same time, I do kind of fear censorship. Do I think that Kanye should be censored? Low-key, yeah. He's awful and crazy and needs to be on some kind of meds. But at the same time, again, with this whole slippery slope thing, I'm afraid that, you know, right now, Elon Musk owns Twitter. Twitter could pass on to the hands of other people. And I don't think, like, corporations, especially social media corporations, have become such a huge platform for so many people to express their views. And I'm afraid that if corporations have the power to censor people without that same due process that they would be awarded if they were just saying it in a public space, that it can kind of just hurt our ability to discuss and share our opinions and views.
Can I ask you, would you guys have chosen green if the question was, should Kanye get a 24-hour ban to disincentivize future Nazi behavior? Nope. You still don't think a 24-hour ban?
I would have voted green. I would have done that.
So what's your
It's a 24-hour slap on the wrist. It's not going to change anything.
It could disincentivize future behavior.
Not with Kanye.
He's so
that would embolden
crazy.
him.
Yeah.
It's not even about Kanye, it's just about the broader
So,
Twitter.
and exactly to that point, I want to widen it more from this just Kanye. X as a platform has changed significantly. I enjoy the platform more, but I also know that there's a good amount of people that enjoy it less, but there's also a good amount of people that enjoy it more. Those that enjoy it less have the free market opportunity to go to Mastodon or Blue Sky or whatever platform of the month, just like conservatives had done with Gitter, Gab, Parler. I was on all of those for a period of time when those were starting to pop off and then wane. Even now with True Social, like there are always the opportunity for alternative platforms that want to be more strict about their content moderation or less strict to certain groups. That's always something that can happen. But I'm starting to get of the opinion that major platforms like X, Instagram, and things of that nature are what's called the new public square. And the public square comes from the idea of that it's the idea of freedom of speech. If somebody's standing in the square of the city and they're holding up a sign and it says something like something crazy, like maybe something that Kanye said, like for instance, free Diddy. Like not something that hateful or violent that he said, but something kind of objectionable. But if let's say somebody's holding up a picket sign in New York in Times Square saying free Diddy, I don't want the police to come over and arrest them for that. Just like I don't want Kanye to be banned off Twitter for saying free Diddy unless it gets to as of now. Now, right now, the public, those platforms aren't really treated like public squares. In my opinion, is that they should. But I also understand that there's a business decision to that. Some places might not want to advertise. So it's a very thin line. I think where we stand right now, and you know, it's actually really hard to find Kanye's tweets, if I'm being honest, because there's numerous search bans on his account. There's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a
shadow
block,
ban.
not a shadow ban, but also a content warning on his account, because obviously he's saying really objectionable and strange things. I think that's about as much as you need. Now, if he starts saying, we need to kill this person, we need to kill that person, obviously that gets into the realm of where freedom of speech no longer applies. I think without a shadow of a doubt, that's where we get there. Also, same thing as with material that is illegal like CSAM, things of that nature. If somebody starts sharing that, obviously that's what needs to be banned. But I'm starting to get to the opinion, I'm very close to being a free speech absolutist, and where I say people should be able to say what they want to say, including more than likely even on most social media platforms, because they're so homogenous with our culture now and how we connect that it's almost like a revocation of civil rights to be banned off of one of them.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that I'm a free speech absolutist, but what I will say is that these companies are private corporations. Yeah. And that's my fear, is that our speech shouldn't be dictated by a private entity. If our speech is going to be dictated by any group, it should be the government or the laws. And my fear is that these companies are acting in their own interest and not the interest of the people, because it's private.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to take the pro-censorship. I don't think Kanye should be banned from Twitter forever. I don't think that that's what should happen, but I think there should be some mechanisms on the app of Twitter to disincentivize some of the behavior I see. And you know what? What you just laid out right now, like a slight shadow ban or content warning, that seems pretty fair. If you're going to de-rank Kanye's stuff and be like, maybe you shouldn't post Nazi propaganda, I think that's fair. I wouldn't call myself a free speech absolutist. I do think that there's a line you can walk. But does it bother you guys when Elon Musk bans people on Twitter for other reasons? Do you guys remember the H-1B visa controversy that happened? Elon Musk was banning accounts that were disagreeing with him.
Yes,
that bothers you as well?
Yes, and yes, it does bother me as well. And the funny thing is that as the more MAGA person, that was, and I'm not going to say that I was on board with that, but it was more people that were in my sect of thought that were embracing that. And suddenly, like, these are, you know, sometimes friends of mine, people I know, that were having their verification checks swiped away, which is kind of more like, okay, well, that's not so
That's
much of a
Elon
thing, even if
abusing
they
his
pay
power.
for it. Well, it's kind of like, if the CEO of McDonald's says, hey, you can't order this burger, you can only order these items, like that's just kind of like what it is, but we're still serving you in a way. Elon can remove the verification check and stop paying you, the creator, whatever, to an extent, as long as that's in no violation of any contract or any payment service. But and my point, and I want to clarify, I'm not a free speech absolutist. I'm just really close to it. And my opinion is that platforms this large should no longer have the protections that shield them from having to treat these platforms of speech not as public squares.
You get where I'm coming from when I just say some of this behavior should be disincentivized in very slight ways, even if it's just a slap on the wrist, even if you're just content banning them or shadow banning them or whatever.
In their business interest, yes, but in the interest of people being able to see it per se, not really. I think the majority of people that see that content are like, okay, this is objectionable, and that's just where it stands.
But there's
Like,
kids on there.
there are, well, that's the thing. There shouldn't be. There shouldn't
Yeah.
be. The platform should mandate 13 or older to be on there, and I think maybe that even gets raised. I don't know, whatever it may be. There definitely should not be kids on X or Instagram or probably even TikTok.
Or Snapchat. Honestly, get them off.
Get them out of here.
So is it fair to say that Elon Musk is being kind of inconsistent with his moderation and does it for reasons that benefit himself? So
okay,
here's the thing.
I don't want to equivocate Elon Musk zapping some people that said some
For self-serving
not great
reasons.
things about H-1B visas, and Kanye West saying he loves Hitler. It's not really on the
No,
same
I'm just
level
saying,
whatsoever.
Elon Musk has shown this pattern of every time he gets in some personal squabble or beef. I'm pretty sure he shadow banned Grimes a few weeks back because Grimes was saying something. It was something like to that effect. It seems like he uses Twitter for his own self-serving reasons, and then I do see a lot of Nazi stuff on Twitter, and it's not because of what I look up. I swear to you guys, I just scroll through my Twitter feed, and there's random video.
The algorithms know what you like and know what you
But
dislike.
you guys know I'm being
To Adam's point, if
Yeah.
you are going to continue to have someone who is so extreme as Kanye West be allowed to exercise their right to free speech, then that should extend to everyone. I think the
I
point.
do agree
Yeah,
with
and
that.
I mean, my stance on this is what you guys have already said. It's simply just free speech. I condemn, obviously, Nazis and everything that comes with that, but it's like he has, because of the country we live in, he has the right to post that stuff as long as it's not inciting violence or targeting people, or I think it's defamation is another way that your First Amendment right can be revoked. But same thing, how Elon Musk kind of picks and choose. We've been seeing that on Instagram for years. I mean, I've had individuals that, for posting something about pro-life, their complete profile was
My
banned.
Instagram
My
got
mom had her
deleted
Facebook
because
account
my
banned.
Instagram got deleted because of Aiden Ross. Me and him got in a beef, and he told all of his fans to mass report me, and they deleted my Instagram.
Mass reports are crazy.
Yeah,
and that
like-
shows you those platforms. Even TikTok is almost insane. Like, I know that they ban liberal creators quite a lot as well, even if they're just live streaming or just making videos. Like
Yeah.
they operate in such a way that it's almost like they only want you Americans watching dumb cat videos. But if you start talking about, okay, well, here's how we can make America great again, or here's how we can build back better, I don't know, whatever liberal slogan y'all have.
Middle ground, that's what we call it.
Whatever it might be. They're like, okay, well, that's gone. And I feel like that's not right.
Well, I think my point too is regardless of if it's Elon Musk, whoever it is, there's always going to be some type of favoring their beliefs.
And we
But
want
that's
obviously
why
that's not
when
right.
it's a private company like that, I
they
don't
can
want
do that.
them to
But I
have.
also don't know if there's any way to have.
Well,
have
I think that there
There
should
is.
be. I do think that there is an issue with children on these apps, and
Yes.
children do
Well-
kind of complicate it because they all of us have our own beliefs that I'm hoping are based in our own thought and reason and personal experiences as mature adults. But kids don't have the luxury of
have
having
that.
those experiences,
Yeah.
and it does scare me that accounts like Kanye's can be seen by kids. So do you guys think that there's maybe a way to limit that speech at aimed at children? I guess how do we do it in a way that's protecting
they
kids'
just
rights to
ban-
innocence?
If you're under a certain age, you have to go through some kind of verification process.
Yeah, so-
I mean,
Yeah.
same thing, which is a little, I know it's not everybody believes in it, but I believe the same thing with pornography. I mean, it's so easy for young kids to access, and even being on a platform like X, I'm sure you can find a whole bunch of stuff. I don't have X, but I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stuff kids can find.
Well, Kanye West himself was posting porn, and it's funny because
Yeah,
I believe
he was. That was.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, oh my God, he went crazy.
It was like
I think it was
wild.
like 40 videos.
Yeah.
That
I didn't know
was the
that.
moment. It's gonna be strange to say, but that was the moment where I was finally like, okay, I can't even
Yeah.
read this anymore. Because
See, that kind of like changes things a little
That
bit. for me.
does
Chandler was
actually
sitting there
change
saving
the
all the
rules.
videos, like this is too far.
No,
This is way too far.
no. And back to the point on Twitter real quick. That Twitter should have a mechanism to restrict children being there. They already do. You can't make an account if you set your birthday under 13. But of course,
Yeah, but
you
you
know,
can
every
I
kid.
lied.
I used to always set my birthday as 1996. I was like, you know, whatever it may be.
I'm still 12 years old.
Yeah. So it might be more of like maybe we get to the point, and it's funny that you mentioned the Pornhub thing. Some states actually require that you submit your ID, and some people don't want to do that for Pornhub. But I think if we get to the point on Twitter or things of that nature, maybe we get to the point where these platforms require you to submit a driver's license of some sort to identify yourself. But then that gets more into the realm of, well, then what happens to anonymity and how, you know,
Yeah.
the privacy concerns. It's kind of like we have to play this game where, you know, have you ever seen that meme where it's the guy and it's two buttons and you're sweating and you don't know which one you click and you don't know, okay, privacy or protecting the children, which one do we pick? It's kind of like, what do we value
I wanna say
more?
children, yeah.
I might actually have to disagree and say privacy, because here's the thing. Parents need to be involved in their children's lives. Parents need to be mandating what their children have access to. And if you're leaving your child with unfettered internet access, what are they going to find? Live leak? Nobody wants that to happen. That's what used to happen. It's not as big anymore, but these problems can still persist. But that's only if our parents aren't doing their jobs.
I do feel like parents of children in our generation and a little bit above and below have this unique disadvantage of not having grown up with this technology.
Yes.
Like I think that we as parents are going
Gen
to be
Zers would be
much
better.
more protective and
Yes.
diligent of what our kids have access to on the internet. But you know, my parents didn't know what the fuck Snapchat was.
Oh, yeah.
So they were kind of
They weren't in the kick trenches.
yeah, they're at a disadvantage. They don't know how dangerous it can be. So I think just generally we all agree that free speech is important and that private companies should not have a role in who gets to speak and who doesn't on these public forums. But it is important that we have safety measures in place to protect children from seeing offensive and dangerous content.
Experts reveal the obvious reasons why young people are having less sex than previous generations. Is it healthy that younger generations are having less sex than older generations? 3, 2, 1.
Shocker.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it's a blessing. I mean, I think our generation is bringing sex back towards what it was intended for. And I do think part of that reason is our generation is chasing after something that's going to fulfill them, that's going to fill their depressions, their sorrows, their loneliness. You know, we've turned to drugs, we've turned to alcohol. I think in most recent years, it's been turning towards sex and hypersexualization. And ultimately, I think that's leaving us empty. And you know, my opinion on this is I truly think it's us searching for that ultimate joy. And you know, for me, Jesus Christ is that ultimate joy. He saved me from a whole bunch of things. I've tried all that stuff. It doesn't work. It leaves you empty. And he's the only joy in my life that's brought that consistent happiness. And I think maybe our generation is kind of waking up to that. I know we're seeing a huge revival within the Christian community. And I think we're kind of getting past that whole aspect of meaningless sex, because you hook up with somebody and then you're just left there and it's like, hey, what next? You're just left empty.
So my question is, are younger people having less sex or are they in relationships less? Because my fear is that younger people are having less sex because they're less social. And I think that my concern is that, you know, I don't know. I often feel kind of jealous of my parents for growing up before the age of the internet,
Same.
where, you know, the only mechanism of social interaction was to see each other in person. So there were more outlets for people to really hang out and be together in person. And my fear is that social media has kind of taken over our ability to socialize in person, and that's why people are having less sex. And it's not because, you know, they're valuing sex more, but because they're just not hanging out with each other.
I agree. It's not about values. I think the way you framed it as if it's a good thing that people are intentionally doing, but I do think it's downstream from just less socialization in general due to social media, due to the advent of iPhones being in everyone's hand. But also, I think that was exacerbated by the COVID pandemic. I don't know about you guys, but during the COVID pandemic, I started to spend a lot of time alone. I had to intentionally start hanging out with people after the pandemic and kind of remove this bubble that I put around myself and get back out there. There's a reality where a lot of young people in their formative years, like our age, they're addicted to social media. The pandemic hits, they kind of just turn more introverted, and then they never actually rebound and have more sex. That could be a reason. And the reason why I think that young people having less sex is bad is because, number one, it's less socialization. But number two, when you look at other countries across the globe, the happiest countries out there tend to have a higher freedom index in a way. So if you look at the Middle Eastern countries where women are oppressed in many different ways, the happiness there isn't really that high. And I'm not saying that America should be like a complete, like we're all just running around naked or whatever, but I mean, I'm just like, if there is a correlation between the freedom that one person has to have sex or do what they want or express themselves and happiness, I want to maximize happiness. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are kind of a little side note of that, but one of the happiness as far as like personal joy, one of the happiest countries is Africa, some of the countries in Africa, and they have a very traditional view on sex.
Which countries?
Well, like there's countries, Ghana, they view this from a traditional aspect. And I've never been there, but I know people that have gone on like mission trips and served. These people are some of the happiest people that we've ever seen.
Yeah, but we're America, man. We've got the strongest economy.
No, I know, but I don't think
Ghana?
like sex equals happiness.
Well, you want us to be more like Ghana?
I
Is
don't
the
think that
goal?
sex equals happiness either, but my fear is not that people are less happy because they're not having sex. My fear is that people are less happy because they're not getting out more. And
I agree
think
with
that
that,
like
no.
the amount of sex people are having is innately correlated to how much they're just interacting socially in general. Because like how many of your social interactions are going to lead to sex? Probably not a lot. So the amount of, not offense to any of you, but just like in general, you know? So if people are going out less and they're having sex less, like I'm just concerned that younger kids aren't having as many social experiences.
That's the concern. And I wasn't saying that sex directly leads to happiness, more sex. I was just saying broadly when a society is more free or they allow people to express themselves in certain ways or like they're very social and there's a very cohesive society where people are hanging out a lot, they're more happy as a society in general.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you guys have hit on a few great points, and I have my bubble green for similar-ish reasons to you, although completely secular. I just think, logically speaking, society functions better when there's a lot more monogamy and a lot less hookup culture. But I don't really get into all that. What I want to get into actually is the birth rate, and that's something I really value. A lot of Western first world countries are suffering from a fertility crisis. In America, for instance, in 1960, the average woman had 3 babies. In the 70s, after the big boom of feminism and also various other economic crises and things that happened then, that dropped to I think 1.62. It started to go back up as we got into the 2000s, and by 2007 it was back up to 2 births per woman. After the financial crisis of 2008, that dropped right back down to 1.5 or so, and it's been hovering around that ever since. So I think we get to the point where we need to focus a lot more on replacing, because every child has to replace the population you have in your country. That number of births per woman has to be 2, because it takes 2 people to create 1 child. So every woman needs to be having somewhere around 2 babies. Obviously, some women can have more, some women can have less. But I think we need to get to the point where we are able to maintain our population. And in order to do that, we need to solve this problem that you guys are mentioning very greatly, that there are people that aren't getting out, there are people that aren't connecting, and there are people that aren't fostering relationships that would then build homes and families. I think that's a serious problem that we need to address, and I think there are numerous routes, but I think definitely getting people outside and connected is very important.
In addition to that, I think not only what you were talking about, but also helping educate our generation on the value of sex. Because I think if you bring people together in more community, if they have more sex without understanding, in my opinion, what's it intended for, with how we're seeing abortion in this country, that interaction that you're seeing, which leads to more sex, can also lead to more babies that aren't wanted and end up killed. And so I think it's a mix of getting community together more, but also helping people understand, what comes with sex, and increasing sexual education within our youth, understanding when 2 people come together and things happen, there's a risk of things happening, and helping them understand that, where I think things have become a little reckless, and people don't always understand what what may happen, the effects of some of their, the consequences of some of their actions. But I do think technology has been huge, and I think that's something we kind of all agree on is trying to find something to bridge that distance of communication.
We want kids to be more social and practice healthy sexual habits.
Yes.
That's fair. I agree.
We hope that the next generation can learn to do that. Cool.
We hope there is one. On Love is Blind Season 8, political differences take center stage. Would you date someone with opposing political views? 3, 2, 1.
Wow. Again, I'm down now.
Interesting.
You guys make the argument first. Why wouldn't you, Chandler?
Well, political views is something that's very important to me. I have been doing political commentary for now 6 years, so it's kind of like a core principle, not because I make politics my personality, but because it's part of like my career. So I speak about politics, I make content about it, I work with political organizations, and for those reasons, I've found that, for instance, for when I'm a straight male, I found that women, particularly my age, that disagree with me politically, really do so vehemently. I've struggled to run into any moderate liberal women per se, and I've struggled to run into any that aren't like Naima. This is going to sound really Naima.
That's not my name. There you go.
Naima, I'm sorry. It's going to sound really rude, but so many of them are like very aggressive. And I found that I don't think that would be a match that could work, because the things I look for in a partner wouldn't mesh well with somebody that could disagree with me on such a deep level about basically everything.
Yeah.
Well, while I disagree with the blanket generalization of labeling liberal women as aggressive, I do think that, especially for us as people who are very engaged in politics, my political views are very much enmeshed with my core values. And I think it would be very hard for me to date someone whose values don't align with my values. I think that would just be a recipe for disaster. And also, I love my boyfriend.
Yeah, now you guys are making me rethink, because now it seems like I don't have strong core values that I would want to project onto someone else.
That's not what I said.
No,
Yeah.
but the thing is, I've met conservative girls, conservative women,
Right.
who I have good banter with. We
Yeah.
disagree, we have good banter, and it's sort of like I can save them. I can convert them a little bit. Now, I would never date someone who's like Kanye West tweeting, obviously, but if I meet someone and they're a little bit confused on the Ukraine war, and they're like, oh, we're sending hundreds of billions of dollars over there, I'm not gonna like push this person away because of that. I'll talk to them about it. So would I write someone off if I learned they were slightly conservative? No, I would date a slightly conservative woman. But ideally, I'd date someone who's aligned with me, ideally.
Right.
Yeah.
And the bigger question, and this might flip you as well, would your end goal be to, because you said confused and kind of framed it in a way in which she's, in this scenario, less informed and doesn't quite fully understand things, would your end goal be to sharpen her up to basically matching your political view?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many 22-year-old women I've met who don't really have strong political views, but they just have this vague idea. And then you talk to them and they start to agree.
Yeah.
My goal is not to actually convert somebody to a liberal, but I think broadly, if I met someone who I really, really liked and we had good banter, and I found out that they were slightly more conservative, that wouldn't make me push them away.
As a Christian, I look for a partner who is also a Christian. The Bible talks a lot about what is described as being evenly yoked. The yoke was like this wooden collar that they attached to two oxen when they were plowing the fields. And if one oxen was faster, slower, bigger, smaller, it would be uneven and they wouldn't be able to get the job done. And so the Lord kind of describes that into finding a partner, find someone with your same beliefs. And the reason why I couldn't necessarily date a liberal woman, and this is a pretty hot point, is I personally don't believe that you can call yourself a Christian and a liberal. I think it's an oxymoron. I think the liberal value of frankly murdering babies is in opposition of a God that created us, knit us in our mother's womb, made us fearfully and wonderfully. And I think also their stances on certain issues like transgenderism goes against the whole ideal of the Lord made us perfectly as we are. And so that's just my opinion. So I think not necessarily if I wasn't a believer, if I wasn't a Christian, I think I would be more open to it. But it's just hard for me to I guess, be grounded with the fact that I don't believe that you can be a Christian and a liberal. I'm sure I'm gonna have my moment of being canceled for that, but that's just my opinion.
So can I ask who's murdering babies?
And by the way,
Murdering babies.
I don't know if this is our
we don't
prompt.
just murder them, we eat them too, by the way.
boy.
But really quickly, Chandler, can I ask you a question? Sorry to sidestep, but can I ask a question?
You're
this morning?
saving his ass, but
Yeah, so-
yes. What's the
No,
question?
I guess this applies to Chandler or all of you. Say you meet a girl or a dude, doesn't matter. I know you have a boyfriend, but I mean, like, say you meet someone, I'm just saying, you meet someone hypothetically, and you hit it off with them super hard. You guys hang out for like a week, super solid chemistry, they're a really solid person, and then you find out you just slightly disagree with them. They're not even like a huge liberal, raging liberal, but they're just like a centrist who happened to vote for Biden and Kamala because their parents did. Would you write this person off if, as I just laid out?
Absolutely, I would not. I would not, and I think that's categorically different than what the question's asking. Because the question isn't, is this just somebody that's either uninformed or somebody that's just following what people around them do? Because if you're disqualifying that, you're never going to make it. You're not going to make it. But if you're willing to be open to somebody that's just like, oh well, because I've gone through this before. Somebody that was just like, hey, I don't really know anything about this. I just voted for what my parents said, and they said that they didn't really know what was going on either. They just said, oh, it's the pandemic. I hate Trump. Whatever they voted for. But if they, a lot of the times, particularly, I have some anecdotal experience with this. I'll talk to somebody, and you don't really bring up the political buzz points. You just start talking about, as Luce mentioned.
I do right away.
He's like, are you murdering babies?
I
Yes,
find
right.
out if they're pro-life,
Core
if they're
value
Christian, if
points.
they're-
So, for instance,
Are
I'm
you
not,
single?
and I'm. Oh.
Kind of.
Anyway.
Kinda.
Complicated.
Kinda is that encapsulates everything going on right now. We are so polarized as a society and as a culture that it's almost like two sides, and there's barely any room to be in between. And I don't even know if this is necessarily a bad thing or not, because it's more of a symptom of a deeper issue of how far apart we're spreading on various really important issues. For instance, like LGBT identity and abortion and things of that nature that are really core to who you are as a person. These are important decisions that you don't really make just by signing up for a party. You make these decisions by how you think. You make these decisions by somebody says to you, hey, this person thinks that they can change their gender, but they want to compete against these group of people in sports. Okay, well, that's a thing. How do you feel about that? The girl says, oh, well, I think that's just fine. They should be able to do that. Okay, you stay over there.
That's disqualifying that in and of itself.
Well,
Somebody being like, hey.
this is more of like an example,
Yeah, I
but
know.
it could be like if these things add up. For instance, if it's somebody
Are
that,
you single, Chandler?
yes.
Okay, continue.
I'm just
Is this some sort of like, oh, well, you're single, I wonder why type of moment?
No, continue.
Okay, are you single?
I am, yeah.
I'm just gauging the room. I just want to see where we're at with this.
Yeah, but
Well,
if
so
we're
I have a
going there, I
different
mean,
intention in
yeah.
what my relationship. So my end goal in a relationship is to find a partner so that I can eventually have a family and provide for that family and raise children up as the Lord has called us to do.
That's my intention as well. What are your intentions?
I just want to date MAGA girls and turn them liberal.
I respect the
I mean,
hustle.
going back to that's why I look so deeply at values is because this person, this woman that I'm marrying, she's gonna be raising kids with me. If we have different value, if she values life differently than I do, that's gonna affect in how we raise our kids, and that's gonna lead into more road bumps in the marriage, and things can just progress from there.
So we seem to agree on the idea that it's
we all
important to
agree.
date people who have your values and who share your values. And I think that especially when people who are very politically minded, that those political values are part of our values outside of
I think we all
relationship.
agree on that.
Okay, guys, hypothetically, with the current administration, marry, deport, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, and Donald J. Trump.
I'm not answering this.
Jesus.
I'm not answering
I
this.
didn't write this question, okay?
Yeah, I'm not answering this.
I mean, hypothetically, if I was a female, I would probably deport Elon, and I would marry Vance, and I'm not saying the rest.
You seemed pretty excited to marry Vance.
Bro, salivate.
I'm waiting for my wife, so I can't answer the rest, guys.
Yeah.
That's a rough one. I would like to deport them all.
Right?
I think I'd Elon and then deport him after, so I'd never have to think about that again.
Why would you do it in the first place?
Well,
Why
'cause
would
you
I?
have to.
Yeah, I have to choose one of them.
Oh, okay.
And then
Can't do it both to him.
I don't like
thought.
this game.
with Trump and JD Vance, impeach, was that one of them? Or
No,
Okay.
deport.
I mean, JD Vance is more physically attractive. I mean, Trump's kind of funny, so I'd marry Trump. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a hard one. I'd probably marry JD Vance. He seems like the most easy to get along with. I think I'd deport Trump. I think he just needs to leave. He's gotta go. And then, Elon, I'd F him, but I'd take a very long shower afterwards. Oh, I would definitely peg Elon though. He's not,
Jesus
we're going
Christ.
that way.
I think Chandler had the same answer.
Yeah, that's not happening.
After this discussion, guys, what do you think we all agreed on?
Well, I think we all agreed that we love this country. We want to see it prosper. We don't want to see people killed. We respect people's freedom, both of speech and of the pursuit of happiness. And we want that respected at every way, shape, and form in every direction.
I just want to point out we have 4 people of different political views, and usually when you go online, our ideologies would be tearing each other apart at each other's necks, but when you sit down and talk to people face to face in a democracy, in America, we actually found a decent amount of common ground. I mean, we agreed. Like, when I look Chandler in the eyes, we know that we both care about America. We both want the best for our country. But if I look up Chandler's Twitter account, I'd probably talk a little bit of shit, so.
Yeah, no, I also do think that we can all agree that it's important to have these discussions in person and not online.
Yeah.
Like, I think that this was like a much more productive conversation than I've had in any interaction online. I mean, we all agree that war is bad. I mean, we all agree that it's not fair to murder someone despite how bad their actions may be to you. We all agree that it's important to have due process.
We
do
all
all
agree
agree
that we hate Putin.
We hate Putin.
Putin's not a good guy. All my homies hate him.
Yeah.
And we also agreed that,
He needs to find Jesus.
no, we didn't all agree on that one. The definitions
Well, Putin
matter.
could use some
I said
Jesus.
he needs to find
Oh, I thought you said we need to.
Oh,
No, Putin could find some Jesus.
Putin
yes.
could absolutely find some Jesus. And we all agreed that definitions matter. You can't just call Mahmoud Khalil a terrorist when he's not a terrorist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it's important to protect kids from online. Just the whole thing.
Yeah.
Some kids.
Most kids, all kids.
So formal. I need my
Here you go,
suit.
Chandler.
It was a nice chat, man.
Yes.
I did enjoy it actually a lot.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
fun.
no,
It was cool.